Converging Paths.
Welcome back, friends, to the Converging Paths podcast. I'm your host, Eric Elnes, and in this series, we're calling it The Inner Work, and we're exploring the 7 deadly sins and 7 lively virtues, not as moral behaviors or scorecards, but rather as a way of naming the inner pressures that shape how we show up in the world, and especially in anxious and divided times. Joseph Epstein, the writer, once said that of the 7 deadly sins, envy is the only one that's no fun at all. There's just no aspect of envy that.
Wait.
Yeah.
I gotta put a flag on a play. I don't agree with that.
Oh, okay, well, let's get to that because I haven't introduced you yet either. This is Rabbi Brian Mayer again joining us, and our Zen Buddhist teacher, Esther Frankel-Tishman. It's good to have you with us.
Great to be here. We've got a flag on the play.
Yeah, well, let's go with the flag. What, Rabbi?
So there are 4 types of envy. I did a little bit of research before today. One is going to be healthy envy. I'll get to that. I'll swipe back around to it. The next 3 are unhealthy forms of envy or jealousy. The first one was to feel bad about yourself. I can't do that thing. I feel bad about myself. The second way of doing envy wrong is you have a thing, I'm going to take it from you. Then I have the thing. And the third way envy can be unhealthy is you have a thing, I'm going to just break it. So even it's of no use to me, I'm going to just destroy it. Now let me get back to number 1. The healthy form of envy is for growth. I met my best friend Larry. I thought, this is the kindest person I have ever met. And I thought, I want to be more like Larry because I saw how he is in the world. And so envy can be healthy, but just 1 out of 4 types.
Ah, excellent. Well, that really kind of brings up our last episode, Esther mentioning that these things are like the leaves that back and forth, they're joined. There's a positive and a negative kind of aspect from each one of those, so that's helpful to bring out. Those 3 bad ones remind me, there's another quote by a guy named Caleb Colbert, who said that envy, if surrounded on all sides by the brightness of another's prosperity, like a scorpion confined within a circle of fire, will sting itself to death. Like it's got its hackles raised so far that it actually ends up stinging itself.
I see what you're doing, and I'm so envious of it that I will hurt myself.
Yes.
Resentment.
Yeah.
It sounds like, at the core, envy requires a mind of comparison. I am understanding myself by what I see in you. And that might be something that leads toward emulation. If I'm comparing, right, I'm positively assessing you and holding myself up to that mirror. And that might mean that I hate you because you have what I feel like I lack. Or it may mean that I want to be just like you and I'm like the little kid who's following the big brother. This is hearkening back to our first episode for me because it is all about, everything's about hunger and it's all about childhood and all about us needing to recognize that we're still children and we're going to need to reparent ourselves. But like Augustine's, I first came across the Christian teachings of envy in Book 7 of Augustine's Confessions when he's talking, we touched on this in the last episode, but he's like, yeah, of course, you think children are innocent? No, they're not innocent. And he's talking about watching an infant glaring and being like shaking with rage at its foster brother at the breast, as if he's not being, like if the foster brother, it's a zero-sum game, like he's going to take all the milk, I'm not going to get it.
Yeah, that seems to be actually deep baked into not only the human species, but certain non-human species. I know there was a study done years ago about chimpanzees and how if you, they're asked to trade something for something. So like a chimpanzee was very happy to trade the rock for the cucumber until he sees the companion chimpanzee get a grape for the same rock, and then it goes ape. It does. If it
goes
will
ape.
throw, yeah, it goes ape. Yeah, I didn't even try that. I didn't even. But yeah, we'll actually throw the cucumber away. Get really angry about that too. Jesus himself tells a parable about a vineyard owner who then needs to harvest and goes out and finds day laborers and says, hey, I'll pay you a fair wage, which is denarius for day labor for your work. And so they gladly accept, and they go out in the field. And then later in the day, he grabs some more people. Later in the day, some more people. By the end of the day, there's an hour left. He goes, grabs some more people, and comes and
pays
then
them the same rate.
Yeah, at the end, he starts to pay the people who came for just an hour. He pays them a complete denarius, and so the other ones are thinking, oh, well, they got this. What are we going to get? Well, they all get the same wage, and then they're outraged. And then the response of the owner is, am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Are you envious because I am generous? Oh, that just hits me. I could
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not
If somebody
fair.
fires a T-shirt cannon and it lands, 4 seats away from me, I'm envious.
Right.
I don't need another T-shirt, but I'm envious because they got a thing and I didn't.
Absolutely. Years ago, when an author I love very much named Rob Bell, he was an evangelical minister of a very large church, and is absolutely brilliant. And he released this book called Love Wins, which is all about salvation and really questioning, this whole kind of all these people are going to hell and who are not Christian versus Christians and stuff, and really comes. If not entirely embraces, comes very close to an idea of universal salvation, and that book just went wild. I mean, it was also wildly controversial, like huge controversy around it in the evangelical world, but also, I mean, people like all over were citing that book, and I remember feeling this sense like, dang it. I mean, there have been people in the progressive sphere like myself who've been writing about this stuff for years and years and years, and nobody pays attention. Nobody gives a rip. And you get this evangelical who comes and says basically the same thing, and it gets all the attention. And I could feel that. And it's like, that was really disturbing.
On the flip side of that, Eric, I saw you had published books, and I thought to myself, and I'll quote Augustine here, if he can do it, why can't I?
Yeah, and you did.
That touches what the story you just shared, Eric, touches really close to home for me because, I, as you, Eric, know very well, I just walked this pilgrimage like your walk in 2006. I just walked a pilgrimage last year.
Liberty Walk.
Yeah, Liberty Walk. And then, it was fabulous and meaningful and changed my heart.
You walked from Eugene, Oregon to Washington,
D.C.
Yeah.
So, nearly 2,900 miles. And, it did stuff. But then these Theravada monks, in their saffron robes, suddenly they're everywhere. And I'm like, why are the monks getting all the glory?
Yeah, right.
Which is insane. That is like the most insane thing for a Buddhist teacher.
It's human.
Right.
It's so human.
Yes, it is human. And so then what's the spiritual practice here? Because it's not saying, self-flagellate, I'm a very, very bad person. But what is that envy? It's like, why am I not rejoicing that the world is full of this beautiful archetype of pilgrimage and peace? Why do I have to have it?
But if it happened, and I'm going to throw in, because there's a Capuchin monk. The chimpanzees you were talking about were Capuchin monk.
Monkey.
Oh, right.
Which I think. But
That's
they had
fantastic.
the same jealousy. They had the same jealousy, right? And that proves to me that it's not something sinful or wrong within me. This is just, it's not even human nature. It's
Right.
primate nature.
Well, this from a Buddhist perspective, right? So this is like this, this again is the big daddy of it all, which is my suffering is that I am, finite. And I know that I'm finite. So I'm aware of all the things that are slipping through my grasp. Buddhism has for me, one of the most challenging teachings is the teachings of mudita, or of empathetic joy. It gets translated as Thich Nhat Hanh. He just calls it joy, which I think is brilliant. It's like, this isn't some special kind of joy. This is just what joy always is. And it's joy in the flourishing of another. And I remember when I first consciously felt mudita, I was like a college student, and someone that I dearly loved, my mentor, I guess I was a little bit older, he got tenure. He was untenured at the time, and he got tenure. And I remember just feeling such joy, like, oh, this is so wonderful. And then being aware that, looking back, it's surprising to me that it was surprising at the time. But at the time, I was like, wow, I actually just feel love and joy for his success. That was surprising.
Beautiful.
Well, but I mean, why is that hard? Why should that be I mean, I know it is.
It just is.
Right.
So let me bring in biblical.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
So Genesis 4:7, if I may. Genesis 4:7 is where Cain and Abel both make offerings to God. Abel's offerings are accepted while Cain's are not. And this is where the Hebrew text is completely somewhat incoherent. So I don't know why everyone who does the translations thinks they know what the heck the Hebrew was talking about, because it's a little weird. Something comes over to Cain and says, "Why are you so upset?" Knowing that it's because of the comparison, because my offerings aren't being taken and Abel's are. And then the voice says, "Be wary, for sin is always crouching at your door."
Mm-hmm.
So the envy, if I put the story together, he felt envy, and that led him to this destructive sense of envy, as opposed to this joyous, "Oh, yay, my brother's sacrifices got taken, isn't that wonderful?" But right there at the beginning of these canonical scriptures, it's this is what gets us in trouble.
This is what gets us
I remember
in trouble.
studying that very passage in grad school, and the professor, it was a Genesis thing, and he said, "Well, who told Cain that his offering wasn't accepted? How did he know?" And it's like, there is no mention of and then suddenly the envy really made sense. It's like, we generate it. Maybe he seems, outwardly more prosperous. Well, he must be, God must have liked him better. Oh man, now I want to take him down. But yeah, that envy is really the root of murder in Genesis. You mentioned last episode that in Buddhist tradition, it is generosity that is the counterweight to greed, and I admitted that in the Christian tradition, that's true too. I'd switched it though. I had and I actually applied generosity as a counterbalance to envy, and that has a very direct reason. Actually has to do with this whole Rob Bell thing, because when I was feeling envious of him, I went to because I'd written a book on settling different sins. I knew you got to be more grateful, and I was I'm going to be more grateful for what I have, and it did a little bit of work, yes, but what really helped me resolve this was I had an internet television program called Darkwood Brew, and I thought, instead of feeling like he needs to be lowered, I want to add to his glory. Let's have a series that supports his book. We call it Love Wins, and a little subtitle, and then we actually pointed recurrently to Rob Bell's book and brought in guests, and it felt so good to everyone was like, "Hey, good job, good on you, Rob, and here's all this agreement with you," and that's what really cleared out, just like a little wind that cleared out that sense of envy, was a sense of giving.
Yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense to me. I think when I think about how our DNA stacks us against this, that we are hardwired perhaps for this feeling threatened by the good fortune of another, not just feeling threatened by the aggression of another, but feeling threatened by the prospering of another. I think within my tradition, the remedy, very, very simple remedy at the level of speech, So it's very weird to me that the 10 kind of precepts that you agree to maintain when you're ordained within my tradition, which are kind of like they look like something like the 10 Commandments, because the first one is not killing. So you're like, okay, these are commandments, these are proscribed behavior, but actually they're more like descriptions of that the maple leaf, that one side is our deluded mind, the other side is our Buddha mind. If you're on the Buddha mind side, this is what you do. You don't kill, you don't steal, you don't misuse sexuality, and all down the line of the 10. Of the 10, 4 of them deal with speech. things like not lying, not praising self and criticizing others. That's actually one of the 10 grave precepts that we Zen Buddhist priests, monks, ministers take. I'm not supposed to praise others praise myself and denigrate others. I'm not supposed to discuss faults. Like, it's so crazy that there's so much attention to speech, except that we're social animals. And speech is the social glue. And so just at a very simple level, like, someone threatens me because they're so great. Instead of talking smack about them, what if I just actually say, that Rob Bell wrote such a brilliant book. Let's all read it, And
it's hard.
It is hard, but actually that's much easier than, like, I can say words as I'm demonstrating now. I can say words. My heart can just be like all muckety muck, but I can actually just say something nice about someone who threatens me, as opposed to talking smack about them behind their back.
It's a better choice.
It's a better choice, and actually evolutionary. I was just, Yuval Noah Harari, the Israeli historian, anthropologist who's written, he wrote *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus*. In *Sapiens*, I was just reading it recently. He talks about gossip as evolutionarily, why do we evolve as Homo sapiens? Why did we evolve such a complex speech system? He's like, it's all about gossip, because the way we talk about people in our group is what enables us to build larger and larger social bodies, which allows the species to survive. So how we talk about each other, super crucial. And for me is how I work with the fact that I want to kill the people who are doing well. Talk well about them.
That's a great strategy. I have a thought, if I may. Envy plus greed equals bad. Envy plus gratitude equals growth.
Oh, I like that.
I'll say it again. Envy plus greed is bad. Envy plus gratitude is growth. Yeah. And then I wrote that down on the card, and I'm going to throw that in my
in your wisdom stash, and then guard it greedily.
I really, really like that, because it also, again, goes to that flip side. Like the gift and the curse are related. By feeling the pain of envy, it motivates us to do something about it, and whether that is to look at be more mindful of the things we can be grateful for, or to actually try to add to the person's benefit through generous acts or what have you. It motivates us to be better, in many ways. It can, anyway, if we're not wallowing in our envy. I wonder, though, if there is a justice thing that's circling my brain too, because obviously we could take this too far and say, well, we have a growing disparity between the rich and the poor in our country, and are we saying, well, you shouldn't, we look at people who are making 3,000 times our daily wage and so forth, that can give spark to envy, for sure. But there's also more to it. There's this is also injustice, right? And so I wouldn't say that, well, the solution to somebody making 3,000 times my salary is to be generous and give more, or necessarily simply feel grateful for what I have, although that is going to be necessary.
I almost think that's not the right application if we want to think about envy and how it plays out in terms of contemporary society. It's not. I would want to say it's not the envy of Jeff Bezos. It's more the way, from my perspective, as a Jew, because I'm Jewish and a Buddhist, if I see another marginalized group getting somehow something protective, that I am threatened by their being lifted up. Because I think there's something here about envy as one of the deadly sins. It's about how we are lifted up, and see how we're lifted up. I think the Cain and Abel thing is really important. This is that's the Ur moment of being lifted up in God's favor. So how the universe lifts us up. And I think the contemporary problem that we're seeing playing out is people feeling resentful about the way other people who were down like us have
Right.
been lifted up.
Affirmative action or
Yeah,
immigration,
exactly.
looser
Yeah.
immigration policies. Wait a minute, they are rising. We've been waiting in line for
Yeah.
the American dream to happen patiently,
I mean,
but
this-
now these are being
Yeah.
favored. And
and or and certainly within a kind of progressive conversation, how it can infighting can happen, where we're feeling like if we recognize this problem over here, we're not recognizing that problem over there, or I'm not being recognized in my problematic. It's like, you know what? There's suffering enough for all of us. Let's just, it's great to recognize anyone. So.
If you're suffering more, I might envy you because like you get more attention than me. But,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think you're right that like the envy of Jeff Bezos or what have you is really not. It's kind of beside the point, and that there's a justice thing more maybe to weigh in there. But it's really those people who are closest to us. Like I remember there was a study years ago about whether people they found that people would rather like earn $85,000 a year if their neighbors were all making $75,000 a year than make $100,000 a year and live next to people who were making $125,000. So literally, they're happy to make less money so long as those around them were making less than that.
You know, this is making me think that again, I keep now Cain and Abel is stuck in my head, but also Augustine and the foster brother. Like, maybe the problem with envy is that it corrodes our sense that we're brothers and sisters. And if that's what's being corroded, we're doomed, because we have to live as brothers and sisters, or we can't survive.
There's no envy without a comparison,
Right.
without noticing
Right.
that there's something. And then there's a fork in the road when we get to envy. Is, are we going to use this for health, or are we going to use it for not health?
So there's that thing that feels like armchair psychology or psychotherapy or wherever, like when you find yourself really being irritated at someone in your social circle or your family, it's like, well, what about what they're doing reflects, like, what do you see in yourself? Mm-hmm. Which is kind of a reverse envy, where you're like, I hate it when that person does that, which is like, oh, this is bad. So that kind of where the reflection and comparison, implicit or explicit with another, can become an opportunity for growth.
There's a quote, the second half will fit. The quote is that moral indignation is often jealousy with a halo.
Yeah.
H.G. Wells, that's who said the quote, H.G. Wells.
Jealousy
that
with a
moral
halo.
indignation is a jealousy with a halo. So I see someone else and I think, that's bad, but I'm really just doing that because I wish I had that.
Yeah.
Now, people always want to distinguish between envy and jealousy, but
So I have a solution. Just using the word healthy and unhealthy. There's either towards a healthy growth mindset, or there's towards destruction of self or other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can think of jealousy as the emphasis is more on I want what my neighbor has, whereas envy is like I don't want my neighbor to have what they have. It's more.
It's for me then, this envy piece, this comparing mind piece. It's like it's a problem, except when we realize that actually we are connected. You know, it's like a funhouse mirror type version of the way that we actually are reflections of each other. Like I'm threatened by how you reflect on me. But if I could see that, oh, you are a reflection of me and I'm a reflection of you because we're interconnected, then that would just flip around.
So love your neighbor as yourself, like literally as yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that that brings me right around to that parable about the vineyard owner and the people who are all frustrated by that, because they're all day laborers, so they all were in a similar situation. And one group gets hired for the whole day, and they were happy to have that wage. And of course, then they weren't happy later. Yeah. But when you really put yourself into it, if you were a day laborer, if they would think through, like, well, my neighbor's myself, like they've been in the situation of waiting there and not being chosen. And waiting, and they've got to, day labor, what you make is what you're going to eat the next day. or
Yeah.
the day after that. So if you're not out there laboring, you're not going to eat. And so they've been in that situation too, most likely. So like you're towards even the end of the day, like, oh my God, I don't have food to put on the table for the next day. Well, then you could really feel joyful, like, oh, thank God you got a whole day's wage, even though you hadn't been picked up for
Yeah.
the last hour. Like, oh, I can resonate. I feel that now.
I can feel
I
that.
feel happy
Yeah.
for you. You could eat tomorrow just like I can.
As we've been talking, I've been realizing, there's a thread through all of this that's very much at the heart of my life, which is this little girl's fist in the air saying, it's not fair. It's not fair. Seeing someone get something and I didn't get it. It's not fair. And, that is justice fire to some extent. But it's like, do I want to live in a world ruled by fairness, or do I want to live in a world of love? I don't just want fairness isn't quite what my heart yearns for. Like, I wouldn't want in my family, I wouldn't want my mom and dad to have thought, how do I treat my children fairly? I would want my mom and dad's first thought to be, I love my children.
Yeah. And also grace, a world with grace, where you're actually getting that which you did not earn. But what a great, wonderful sense of abundance when you experience that.
It's not fair.
Yeah, I think a lot of fairness and envy go right in hand. They can fuel,
Okay, so I guess we all have homework.
Yeah, I guess we have. We have homework. There is a parable that comes to mind. It's not a Bible parable, but it really, I find it extraordinary. There's a story about this old woman in the mountains, wandering the mountains, and she bends down and over a creek and notices there's this massive precious jewel in the creek, and she scoops it up and she puts it in her lunch bag and walks on, and then she's just kind of sitting on a log and sees this person who's been out in the wilderness and lost for a while, and saw the woman. Comes up to her and goes, oh, please, can you give me something to eat? And she says, sure. She opens up her lunch sack, says, take whatever you like. So he sees a sandwich there and like, oh, what is this? This like massive jewel. And he realizes, wow, that could make me rich. So he takes the sandwich out and he says, can I also have this? And she says, whatever you like. And he said, great, okay. And he makes off and he goes home. But then sometime later, he comes back and finds this old woman who's out wandering and offers the jewel back to her. He says, actually, what I would like more than this jewel is whatever you have inside yourself that was able to so freely give this jewel away.
Yeah.
And there's a hidden second moral to it, which is he did that. He was able to give the stone back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the turning of the heart.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these sins, so-called sins, are giving us an opportunity to find the turning of the heart in this moment. And I think experientially, I feel like I know when my heart is turning. I'm, as a Zenny, I don't necessarily think of it as it's turning toward this one supreme creator God, but it's turning.
Yeah. We feel more human when we feel it turn. Yeah.
Admit some envy, jealousy of Eric, your facility with electronics and your setup. I'm like, hooray for Eric.
Hooray for Eric. And I'm thinking the when Harry met Sally moment of I want what he's got, right? It's like in a positive way. Like, how do I pick up my game? Yeah. So how that yearning can open.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll gladly give you away all the countless hours it took to set up this equipment, troubleshoot the audio, the video, So be careful what you envy. Hey, this has been a rich experience, and I don't know that we've solved all the problems of the world, but maybe we've had at least a few suggestions, some more gratitude, more generosity of spirit, more sense that we are and our neighbor have more oneness than we suspect, so maybe we can rejoice at another person's boons.
I think my prediction is we'll find that there's some place that we can't get to for some of the things we can.
Amen. Well, we got to the end of this episode, so we'll look forward to seeing you too soon.
Thank you.